Israel is faced with massive historical trials. The entire Iranian nation is faced with this trial, tested in their tradition and culture. Your Eminence, Ayatollah Khamenei, and all loyalists and the entire nation who stood steadfast in the face of all threats, giving precedence to unity and harmony, and above all, maintaining hope. And we all transcended above all calculations, which are nothing but material. That's why this is deep-rooted in our culture and tradition. This is a story of man's steadfastness in defense of dignity and pride. This shows best in the gravest of hours in modern history. And as we commemorate all these values, we extend all respect and appreciation who sacrificed on the journey of independence and stability, those who have sacrificed their lives. I end my statement and now open the floor to questions. You were present in Switzerland, and I have a question about the fact that U.S. officials stated that Iran's acceptance of the entry of international agencies, atomic energy agencies and inspectors. Did you have the chance for a meeting with Grossi in Switzerland? In brief, the answer is no. We did not meet with the head of the agency, nor do we have a clear schedule for the agency's inspectors to examine the Iranian nuclear facilities that came under attack from the Zionist entity and the United States. We, as a member of the NPT, are committed to honor the treaty, and the current course of action will continue. I believe this is quite clear, and with respect to the decision handed down by the Council of Governors of the agency, I seize the opportunity to state that the countries who have responsibly taken the decision and did not swim along with the position of the European states and the United States, namely Russia and China, they adopted a very firm stance, which is highly valued. And those, even the countries who abstained in the voting, have demonstrated the rejection of the decision. Some regional countries, although they have witnessed the aggression initiated by the Zionist entity and the United States, they had voted in favor of the decision. We regret to see that. In case any small explosion takes place within or in the vicinity of their nuclear facilities, they move heaven and earth. That's why, in general, this is not acceptable to us, the decision I made. There are certain speculations about the manner in which the frozen Iranian assets would be released, or the revenues of oil. There are reports that Iran is faced with certain constraints in this respect. There are also reports that Iran is placed under the obligation to buy foodstuff from the United States in return or in the equivalent of these assets. On the ground, what is the dynamic established and what are the assurances given to Iran that the other party will honor their commitment? Yes, that's true. I have heard the media reports and the speculations circulated. We have all come to know that the true reason behind this war was to exterminate Iran's civilization, and this goal has shifted into causing the U.S. farmers to harvest massive revenues. The frozen assets will be released in line with that which falls in the national interest of Iran. This will be decided by the Iranian officials in the light of the manner we deem fit. All in all, we are not faced with any restrictions on how to channel or employ these funds. The dynamic has now come into effect, and the Dr. Hemeti yesterday had presented a detailed demonstration on the release of the frozen assets. In general, the frozen assets will be released and will be employed with absolute liberty by Iran in order to purchase whatever goods or commodities needed by the nation. A question. Are the European countries willing to play a positive role in the negotiations? The French foreign minister said that any resolution for the removal of sanctions must be endorsed by the Security Council. How do you respond? The European states, as demonstrated by their demeanors of the past 1 or 2 years, have placed their countries on the sidelines. We cannot forget the stances adopted or the demeanors of the European states during the war. And I believe the whole world has witnessed the European countries' demeanors during the war. These irresponsible demeanors will lead to nothing but undermining the European states' statures and positions. And I believe time is opportune for them to take responsible decisions. A question by Noor News Agency. Recently, J.D. Vance called the Iranian delegations, and unlike reported by the media, the delegation did not leave the meeting following the threats darted by the U.S. President. What exactly happened during that meeting? I have stated that I will address not about the accounts, but about the facts. The meeting of the 4 parties lasted for 1.5 hours, and it was decided to have a recession after 30 minutes. And during this break, we were faced by these false reports. After that, the meeting was not reconvened. Merely, messages continued to be exchanged through the mediators. After that, we took the decision to put an end to the meeting and not to attend the four-side meetings, after which we were not in communication with the American parties. We, through the mediators, decided to continue to have the messages exchanged, and I believe you have all witnessed the outcomes, and this will be covered over the coming questions and answers. Tasneem Agency. Within the understandings that were reached in Switzerland, the phrase or the issue of forming a committee for de-escalation or diffusing the conflict in Lebanon. Is there a timeline or a schedule for the withdrawal of the occupation forces from the southern of Lebanon? Since the beginning of the understanding on the ceasefire in April till this day, we have all witnessed the continued attacks by the Zionist entity on Lebanon. The obligation to put an end to the war in Lebanon is part and parcel of the previous and the current arrangements. It is also part and parcel of the Memorandum of Understanding. The U.S. commitment is clear, and there are no justification whatsoever or excuses that could be acceptable for the Zionist entities' continued assaults to continue on Lebanon. The understandings reached in presence of the United States and the mediators, together with the Lebanese government, and the dynamics thereof are part of the first part of the Memorandum of Understanding with respect to ending the war in Lebanon and to prevent any military movements. I cannot delve in further details. However, the base foundation is that this is a very complicated issue, and the parties concerned will arrive at the final arrangements over the coming days. As the technical negotiations continue, when will these discussions or negotiations start? Licenses for oil sales were issued by the Treasury, and all the details are now clear. Since these licenses were issued, the technical negotiations started. Repeated claims or allegations by the U.S. officials and U.S. President with respect to the fact that certain regional countries took part in the war against Iran, like Jordan and the United States. Will you, or do you have the intention to pursue legal action? We have conclusive evidence that certain regional countries, the ones you mentioned, had regretfully took part in the U.S. Zionist entities' Israeli aggression against Iran. This is unfortunate, and we regret to see that. we will have our own demands. The Zionist entity and the United States had also declared that certain regional countries took part in the military aggression against Iran. This gives rise to their liability. Above all, the US-Israeli war on Iran is unlawful and in violation of the international law. And by way of providing logistics and allowing these countries for the aggressors to use their homeland and skies in the aggression, this will no doubt gives rise to their legal liability, and we will take whatever action needed in this respect.